Do you want to build a business or do you want to own a job?
So there's all these standards, but in terms of you hiring in the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm going to make it really simple. You want to hear what it is?
Yeah.
It's a lot like in the crime dramas when the detectives say, well, how do we solve this murder? Welcome to Simple Sense for Small Business. I'm not Linda Ray.
And I'm not Trevor Curran.
We're talking about hiring people.
Oh, yes. I think that is the most challenging part of owning a business. Period, full stop for me, for sure. And I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, Psychology 101, there's so many multi-level dimensions. I see your face. I see how you're making faces.
I don't consider that the top challenge of running a business.
I do, because the time it takes to find someone, to recruit someone, to onboard them, to train them, and then it doesn't work out because maybe you were desperate to hire, so you figured an able body will get the job done.
Oh, you mean like you were desperate to hire, so you totally ignored your basic standards?
Yes.
Out of desperation.
Yes.
Which is, an inadequate way to do anything in your business.
It's
you have
true.
Standards, you got to stick to them.
I did start out with the human element, Psych 101, and it's a dual-pronged, imperfect process because you as the business owner fail in regards to maintaining standards, and the interviewee is showing up in their best suit, so to speak.
You would hope.
And then things fall apart because they're like, oh, I got it, so I could just now be me. I don't have to be on anymore.
So I have a completely different perspective.
All right.
Let's take your remarks and go backwards. First of all, when you say they get past the interview, they get hired, and they're like, okay, now I can be me. My process is to figure out who they really are before they even show up for the interview.
Gateways.
That's the Trevor method.
Right. All the gateways of filtering.
And so to me, hiring people is no different than other things you do in your business, especially like if you sell or if you're dealing with vendors and you need to screen out finding new clients to sell to. We did a podcast about that and the kind of filtering that can go in place there. It all starts with, it's a numbers game, right?
Right.
So if you're looking to fill a position, how many people are you interviewing for the position? And are you giving up too soon?
Also think, though, before you even do that, you have to have your wish list. Sort of like, when you used to talk to your prospective home buyers, it's like, what's your dream house? And you have the list.
I never once ever asked them that.
You didn't?
No.
All right. Well, so then the buyers usually will have a dream house with they have to have, 2 sinks in the bathroom.
Which is a recipe, by the way, for failure in how to buy a house. That's a whole other podcast. That's it. Ask any realtor about it, any good realtor about it. My bedroom furniture won't fit in the bedroom. Here's a good analogy. Here's what I used to tell my first-time buyers, and it applies to the hiring process as well. First, we got to get them pre-qualified. So we have to know what their price range is. And then within the price range, I would tell them, go out and visit open houses for the next 2 weekends in the area where you think you might want to buy a house and look at houses in these different price ranges. And then once you see what type of houses are available, then put your wish list together. But your wish list cannot be the be-all and end-all. That's why it's at the end of the pre-qualification process, because what you've got to do with the wish list is create a set of standards of items that you're willing to compromise on and items you're not willing to compromise on.
Interesting.
And this way, when you've got that kind of list, when you say, and the furniture, bedroom furniture thing is like a real thing. Like people literally say that to real estate agents.
I can't fit my bedroom furniture in the room or something
and that's the reason not to buy a house.
Yeah. Okay. So how to bring it back to the business and hiring people?
Well, it's the same thing. If you create your list of standards, which, if you have an employee handbook, that sounds like a whole other podcast.
Yes, it does.
If you have an employee handbook, then you should know what the job is, whether it's a simple job like answering a telephone or a complicated job like rocket science. You should know what are the basic elements that make for a valuable employee in that position.
Well, that's a whole other podcast too on, do you have job descriptions for the employee?
I guess we're done with today's podcast then. Assuming you have done that, at least you've got a sense of what the job entails. And then what you've got to do is cherry pick out of that items that are non-negotiable. And then out of that, items that you'd be willing to compromise on for an employee. But now I want to take a complete left turn in our conversation about hiring to encounter the prospect of trying to hire someone in today's COVID-19 pandemic market, where employers are having very difficult time hiring people and where workers are discovering they have more option on the one hand, but also there are workers who cannot return to work. A lot of people want to blame enhanced unemployment benefits, which are about to go away and have gone away in many places. So as the student of economics in my brain, I've never thought that was the issue. What I thought was it's multivariate issues, such as they may have childcare issues, they may have an elderly parent, they may have family members with compromised immune systems and are still concerned about going out to the workplace and bringing home the COVID-19 infection. So there's all these standards. But in terms of you hiring in the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm going to make it really simple. You want to hear what it is?
Yeah.
It's a lot like in the crime dramas when the detectives say, well, how do we solve this murder? And the other detective says, follow the money. You want to hire people? You got to start with the money.
Realizing that you may have to pay a premium for quality
Well, that's
talent.
what I mean.
Right.
It doesn't take much of a Google search to discover what are basic living standards. You can find it online. What economists say is the minimum amount of money someone has to earn per hour for minimal living standards, such as being able to pay their rent and the utilities and transportation to and from work. And so it has a list, who for a single person, what's the dollar figure per hour? For a couple,
But
for a couple with a child, a single person with a child.
This is even more the reason why you first develop the job description and the skills required, because the person you're hiring can't just come in and demand a certain rate, but they haven't taken the time to develop a skill or have education in an area of an industry or have ways to have
experience
or knowing how to utilize automation.
But even if you're hiring somebody for a basic clerical or administrative type position, basically, dishwasher in a restaurant, there's still elements of this about the money. And if you're not willing to pay, you're completely wasting your time. If you've got your head in the sand as to the economic realities of what's going on right now, and if you're making excuses, if I pay them more, then I'm going to have to raise prices. What are you willing to take to make your business survive?
Well, the other thing too is if you pay the premium to get the quality talent and you look at how much you have to pay on a weekly basis and you take that amount and then you look at yourself with the time that frees up for the things for you to do, then if you're not applying your time to develop income and revenue stream for the business, i.e. sales as a part of the business, then you're wasting not only your own time, but someone else's time to have a potential opportunity because you're not seeing within yourself how you can.
That lets us loop all the way back around to the beginning where you said about, you have to put in the time to hire somebody and then you have to train them and then they leave. Okay. Well, if you have applied those standards and if you're offering the correct pay for the position, and there really is a correct pay for that position, not what you think it is, but there is a correct pay. But then also when you hire the quality person, guess what happens? You don't have to fire them because they're incompetent or they show up late or whatever, and they don't quit because they can get a better job paying better or better work conditions. You get a person who actually is very valuable and you can train them, and you basically, like Ron Popeil used to say on the commercial, set it and forget it. And Ron Popeil died last week, by the way. And that's what happens when you can set it and forget it with an employee. You get to do all those things you were just talking about.
That's right.
Building your business. So there goes your argument that you'd have to raise customer prices. Instead, what you can do is you can pay them. You got a quality person in their position. You can go about your business of growing it. Spend more time marketing. Bring more customers. You got to raise price on the lobster roll. Raise price on the lobster roll.
The thing is, I think people really don't grasp the concept of, do you want to own a business or do you want to own a job? Do you want to build a business?
Well, that's definitely a whole other podcast.
There are people that, want to just do the work without all the tactics and strategies of building a business. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Then,
not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Right. This is not the YouTube channel for you. This is not the podcast for you, if that's the case. And that's awesome because you figured it out. Many people haven't figured that out yet. So
that's why we're here with Simple Sense for Small Business. So let's jump over to our wealth and hellness section.
The wealth and hellness, I think, actually is exactly how I opened this up, with the fear of this being the worst part.
Oh, yeah.
Because then with everything we just mentioned, this all goes away as not even the wealth and hellness.
I have the greatest analogy for this. So here's the wealth and wellness. What you said about, the fear about going into the hiring process and having to look for somebody and the drudgery of it. And oh my gosh, we talked about standards, setting a base pay, job description, what you're willing to negotiate and what you're not willing to negotiate on in terms of compromising. Linda Ray has jumped out of an airplane twice.
That is true.
Okay. I'm going to guess that when you've jumped out of the airplane, there's this whole process.
Oh God. Like right, the flashing before my eyes.
Well, no, this whole process of preparation before you even get on the plane.
Emotionally, mentally, yes.
No, I'm talking about the equipment.
Oh.
Hello, try to keep up. Okay. Talking about the equipment, that there's this whole process, which I'm going to guess, and not that I've ever jumped out of a plane or anything, but I would guess that they've created a system where to get you on the plane and encourage you to actually leap out that window at 10,000, 20,000 feet, whatever it is, that showing you all the protocols by doing those protocols, the safety protocols. They show you how the parachute works. They show you what cord does what, why you are strapped in, and all of this. Doesn't that reduce your fear level tremendously? You're still going to be afraid, but you did jump out of the plane twice.
Well, it alleviated a lot of stuff, which is why I said to the guy, listen, I'm not going to remember all that. I'm just here to experience the free fall. I don't want to know how to check the tachometer and to pull this and that. I said, that's what you're here for. I'm not looking to get trained and certified.
But did it lower your anxiety a little bit?
It did.
Yeah, because if you just got to the airport and they said, okay, Linda Ray's here, let's put you on the plane. See that pack on the floor there? That's the parachute. Put it on your back. Get on the plane.
Yes.
They're going to take you up. Wouldn't you be terrified? Like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen when they explain it.
How does this relate to the business?
Well, because having a system of standards takes a lot of the fear and anxiety out of the process.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. All right. Well, this was great.
I'm still not Linda Ray.
I'm still not Trevor Curran. But we are Aurora Consulting, simple sense for small business.
Thanks for tuning in.
Trying to put the fun back in business. Actually, there's no fun in business.
Well, it can.
Literally, that's in the spelling.
That's yet another podcast. I think we've come up with 4 or 5 or 17 different ideas for other podcasts today. But thanks for tuning in, and
see you next time.
We'll see you on the next one.